As Auburn is set to start spring football practice within the next day, and depending when you're watching this video, they may have already have started spring ball. I want to take a few minutes and talk about the Auburn quarterback competition, which will be starting when spring ball starts. And it's one of the more interesting competitions for several reasons. One, with all the headlines going on this offseason, makes this Auburn in general more interesting for non-Auburn fans. And two, depending if you think their incoming freshman is going to compete for the starting job or not, they have up to 5 guys in the competition for just that one spot. So we're going to take a few minutes and talk about each candidate, some in more detail than others, but I want to take a few minutes to talk about each guy and look at what each guy brings to the table, have some film on each guy as we're talking, and just kind of present what each guy brings to the table and what each guy needs to do to get that starting job. And this is a competition we'll probably cover throughout the spring and throughout the offseason, as I don't anticipate a starter being named until right before the season starts, I would imagine. So all that said, let's dive into the quarterbacks. Let's start with TJ Findlay first. So TJ Findlay started the last 3 games for Auburn whenever Bo Nix got nicked up. And his best game of the year actually probably came against Georgia State whenever they were down. They put him in and they came back to win. But his last 3 games, the last 3 games of the year, he did start, and he had 6 passing touchdowns, 1 interception, had a completion percentage of 54.7 and 6.5 yards per attempt. So 1, did a good job taking care of the ball, but 2, not really a lot of downfield throws, and the completion percentage is something a bit on the low side as well. TJ Finley is a big-bodied guy, has a big arm, can make any throw in the field, so he fits Harsin's offense of what he typically looks for, but the improvement areas are kind of out there and kind of simple, right? More completions, more accurate passes, and push the ball downfield a bit more. Now, some of that is Harsin's offense, right? Maybe not taking a ton of deep shots, but still, you want that completion percentage and you want that yards per attempt to be higher. You want completion percentage to be pushing 60 if you're Finley. You want that yards per attempt to be at least 7.5-ish range. So again, TJ Finley, 3 games starting for Auburn last year, started 5 for LSU the season before transferring. So he does have a good amount of experience, 8 games starting in the SEC. So that is valuable, right? And I think you have to give him room to improve and room to develop. He has his 2nd year at Auburn, but you already have a new offensive coordinator. Technically, you've had, 3, if you include Davis coming in for a few weeks, or a few months, whatever it was. But TJ Finley, big body, big arm, can make any throw on the field. It's just improving the accuracy and improving the consistency. Let's move on to Zach Calzada, who is the other experienced veteran quarterback, even though he just transferred in from Texas A&M. So Calzada is actually very similar to TJ Finley as far as being a bigger guy, right? He's not as big as TJ Finley, but he's still a big guy, has a big arm, can make any throw on the field, but it is similar with his tendency to be inaccurate at times. Now, Jimbo's offense is a bit complex, right? So there is some, it's not probably totally on Calzada, but still his completion percentage was 56, so just a hair above Finley's, and his yards per attempt was 6.7 through 10 games that he started for the Aggies. So very similar to TJ Finley in that regard. He did have 17 passing touchdowns and 9 interceptions. And so he started 10 games for the Aggies once Haynes King got hurt, and pretty much played 11 full games, because once King got hurt against Colorado, Calzada came in. And the big takeaway is, like Finley has a big-time arm. He's beaten Alabama, which every Auburn fan will take. And his best game last year was against Alabama, right? That's when his completion percentage was 67+%. He almost threw for 300 yards in the air and had 3 passing touchdowns in that game. So again, experience for Calzada, big time arm, but you do need to see more consistency in the passing game for Calzada. So with Calzada and Finley being 2 very, very similar quarterbacks as far as what their strengths are, right? Having a big arm, big body, can make any throw in the field, and then also what their areas of improvement are, which would be just more consistency and more accuracy. And again, I don't think that's totally on them, but still, those are the 2 areas of improvement that each guy probably knows they need to work on and make. But at the same time, I think it bodes well for one of these guys if they can take the next step and be more consistent, for the simple fact Harsin tends to like these kind of bigger bodied quarterbacks with big arms. So if one can take that next step, it's going to bode well for their favor. But let's move on to the other quarterbacks that we want to talk about. And one of the most exciting quarterbacks on their roster, at least from an athletic standpoint, is Demetrius Davis. He's going to be a redshirt freshman, but he was their quarterback in the 2021 class, right, out of North Shore High School in Houston, and had a really, really good career down there. Highly touted quarterback, very athletic, dual threat guy, a bit different than Findlay and Calzada. But if they want to go that route, then Davis could potentially be the guy. And he's kind of my, I don't want to say dark horse, right? But it wouldn't surprise me to see him take a step or to come out and turn some heads during spring. So I think he's a talented guy. He's a bit undersized. I think he's like 5'10" and a half or so, according to the website you look at. But I think he's a talented guy, make plays with his legs, but I think he can spin the rock as well. So again, not generally Harson's type of quarterbacks he's recruited in the past, but he could be a guy that could surprise some people because he's just a winner. He just, I know at high school, take it with a grain of salt, but he just finds a way to get it done. Again, Demetrius Davis could be a dark horse guy and surprise some people. Next quarterback is Robbie Ashford, the transfer quarterback for Oregon. And he didn't get any playing time when he was at Oregon. I don't think he was there for about 2 years, or not about 2 years, right? 2 seasons. But he is an Alabama kid, right? He's from Alabama, was a high prospect from the state. And so now he's back trying to obviously get that starting job. And then, the last guy we're going to talk about is Holden Gariner, or is it Gariner? I'm not sure. I'm probably pronouncing it wrong. But I think I don't know if it's really realistic to expect a true freshman coming in and beating out 2 guys with 18 total starts in the SEC combined, and then the other 2 guys have already been in college for a few years, right? So it's a tall task to ask from a freshman quarterback. I still think he's probably the job will be open to him. At least that's what they'll say. But the one thing he's got going for him is he is Harson's first true quarterback recruit, right? Because Davis signed when Malzahn was still on staff, right? And then the other quarterbacks are transfers in, right? Calzada transferred in when Austin Davis was still the OC. So this is kind of Harson's first true quarterback recruit. So that's something that he does have going for him. Again, don't think it's very realistic, at least to start off the season, but just wanted to mention him as well. So to recap it, we got TJ Findlay and Zach Calzada with 18 SEC combined starts. If you want to go the experience route, if you want to know what you're getting, then it wouldn't surprise me to see one of those guys get the job. And again, I think if you're a fan, you have to allow for the room of improvement, right? You have to allow each guy to progress. Each year they need to get better and better. So that could certainly happen with Findlay or Calzada. But I see one of them at some point separating themselves. Also, Demetrius Davis, who we talked about being the young dual threat quarterback, who I think that could, depending what Harsin decides to do, that could bode well for him if they decide to go a different route and they want a bit more offensive system that's designed, with some more RPOs and a quarterback that can run a bit more, somewhat similar to Bo Nix, right? So again, I like Davis. I think he could be a dark horse guy. Then you got Robbie Ashford, the transfer for Oregon, and then of course you got the young freshman quarterback that we just talked about. But I want to hear from you guys. Who do you think is going to be the starting quarterback? What do you think is going to happen, right? Do you think the guy that starts is going to start the whole season? Is it going to be kind of a merry-go-round? By how the offseason went at Auburn, nothing would really surprise me. But hopefully for Auburn's sake, they find a guy who's solidified. And if Auburn has a quarterback, they got some good players around him. So if this quarterback is able to be above average or just average at best, and then or not average at best, but if he's able to be average and then grow, then Auburn could surprise some people. But again, super interesting quarterback room, wide open. You have the veterans, you have the 2 young guys that have been in college that haven't played, and then you have the young guy who just got to school. So let us know in the comments below what your thoughts are. Who do you think is going to win the job? And if you like this quarterback channel, like this quarterback content and just a little spring preview, consider subscribing, like the YouTube video, interact with us. That really does help with the YouTube algorithms and all that fancy jazz. But we'll be keeping up with this competition, and we'll be keeping up with just previewing it throughout the offseason. And we'll see you next time on the next QB Spotlight video.